Good afternoon, everybody, or evening, I suppose. Thank you all for tuning in. This is day 2 of 3 for the first ever virtual State of the City address by our mayor, Lisa Gilmore. We have our city manager, Deanna Santana, and we're joined today by our council representatives from districts 3 and 4, Vice Mayor Karen Hardy and Teresa O'Neill, Councilmember Teresa O'Neill. Yesterday, for those who may not have tuned in yesterday, we held the State of the City address and town hall, virtual town hall for districts 1 and 2. So today we are hosting it with districts 3 and 4. And tomorrow will be the final State of the City and live town hall for districts 5 and 6. I'm going to give a minute for folks to join on the phone. Like I mentioned, this is a virtual town hall. And so we have folks joining in from all sorts of avenues. We have people joining in from Facebook Live, from YouTube Live, the city's website, Channel 15, and we also have it by phone. So if you're watching live, you can dial in by phone if you'd like. The number is 877-353-4701. And for those who are dialed in live, you can also jump in and watch the video feed on any one of the available live streams from the city's website, Facebook page, YouTube page, or from Channel 15. We'll also have, towards the end of the session, an opportunity for folks to ask questions live, unfiltered, as we saw yesterday with the questions that came through. And if you want to ask a question, you can ask it from any of the media that you are watching from. So if you're watching from Facebook Live or YouTube Live, feel free to drop your question in the comments. We will ask those questions on your behalf, unfiltered. And if you want to ask your question directly by voice, then definitely dial the number. Again, it's 877-353-4701, and then press 0 to add yourself to the queue to ask questions. So for those of you on the phone right now listening, if you'd like to ask a question on the phone, to add yourself to the queue, and we'll take the questions in the order they're received, press 0, and then you'll be able to ask your question. If you would like, for those who are on the phone, to leave your email address so that you can get future updates, you can also press 7, but you don't have to do that if you don't feel comfortable or don't want to. For the agenda today, so like I mentioned, we have districts 5 and 6 today, and tomorrow from 4 to 5, we have districts 3 and 4 today, and tomorrow from 4 to 5 p.m. we'll do the final round with districts 5 and 6. For the agenda today, we're going to go with a welcome from our Mayor, Lisa Gilmore, and she'll introduce the districts who are represented today, 3 and 4. For each of those district representatives to speak a little bit about their districts and present the COVID-19 Community Hero Award for each of their districts. And then we'll get the State of the City from our mayor, followed by the city budget update from our city manager, Deanna Santana. After that, we'll jump straight into the live questions and answers. I'll moderate those, and again, if you would like to ask your question, you can leave it in the comments section on the YouTube or Facebook live feeds. And if you want to ask it in person, then feel free to dial the number. Again, one last time, it's 877-353-4701, and then press 0 to be added to the queue. And without any further ado, I would like to ask Mayor Gilmore to come up and take the mic.
Thank you so much, Hassam, our city clerk, for the introduction, and welcome to the 2020 State of the City. I'm Mayor Lisa Gilmore, and although we cannot meet in person, I want to thank you again for joining us virtually, by phone, or online. This is the first time we're doing this, so please bear with us. We're working our way through it. And I want you to know that we are all following social distancing protocols. I am within 6 feet of everyone, and everyone else is within 6 feet of everyone, and we have 10 or less people here in the council chambers today. So everyone who's not speaking is wearing a mask. We all have them with us, so we want to make sure everyone's healthy and stay safe here at City Hall. As our city clerk mentioned, we have a full agenda today, which includes a special presentation, and we'll wrap up with a question and answer period for those who have called in. As you know, we are currently living in a challenging time where nothing seems normal. As a city and as a nation, we have endured months of disruption at home and work due to this serious pandemic. It would have been easy this year to simply cancel our state of the city. That's what other cities are doing. But I think it's important to keep as many traditions as possible, even if it's challenging. And we all know in Santa Clara, we don't run away from challenges. So we're going virtual for this year's State of the City. We can't meet in person, but you can still interact with your city leaders. And I think that is important today as it has been in the past. Before I hand over the floor to our Community Hero Award recognition and our district recognitions, I'd like to recognize my fellow council members. A couple of them are here today, but I want to mention all of them. First, we have Vice Mayor Karen Hardy, who is joining us today. Next, we have Councilmember Debbie Davis, and then Councilmember Teresa O'Neill, who is also here representing District 4 today. And I failed to mention, Vice Mayor Hardy is representing District 3. We have Councilmember Kathy Watanabe, who you heard from yesterday, representing District 1, and Councilmember Raj Chahal, representing District 2, who you heard from yesterday. And if you missed those, they're online if you'd like to watch the presentations from District 1 and 2 as well as this one, and tomorrow District 5 and 6. So I would also like to recognize key members of our leadership team. With us today, we have our city manager, Deanna Santana. We have our city attorney, who's also with us in the room, Brian Doyle. And our city auditor, who isn't with us in the room today, Lynn Lamb. So I know you're watching, Lynn. Thank you very much for everything you do for us. So now I would like to recognize Vice Mayor Karen Hardy and Councilmember Teresa O'Neill as they prepared a presentation to talk about what's going on in their districts and to present their COVID-19 Community Hero Awards. So Vice Mayor Hardy, you're up first.
Thank you, Mayor Gilmore. I want to make this brief because I want to make certain that our residents have a chance to call in and ask questions, because it's been difficult to not have everyone in the chambers as usual. This is a difficult and stressful time for all of us. I want to keep in mind that we be patient and kind with others and with ourselves. Remember, the only person you can change or control is yourself. So please remember that. I see neighbors out walking in my neighborhoods, and as I walk and bike around, and I'm excited to see them, but I worry sometimes when we socially distance, sometimes I forget we can still wave and say hello. When I talk about the boundaries of District 3, that would be from Bowers up to the train tracks, over to the Sunnyvale border, down to El Camino, and on the other side of El Camino, down where Coles used to be, a little snippet of Santa Clara we call the Bird Streets, and that's what I represent. I want you to know that I love the area and I've lived there for many, many years. The one struggle I have is we have a lot of neighborhoods, we have some retail, and I'm so excited that some of the retail is starting to open back up again. And I want to encourage all of you to patronize our local businesses and help them. They've been through a tough time, we all have. And I think it's important. I know we talk about Takeout Tuesday, but it can be takeout every day, trust me. What I want you to understand is we have one park in District 3, and I'm excited because this Machado Park, let's put it this way, some of the equipment was old in the playground. In fact, it might have been kind of old when my daughters, who are in their 30s, are now older. And I'm excited because we are renovating the playground completely. It is back on track, and the hope is once we're able to open all our playgrounds, we can have our ribbon cutting for Machado Park. And I want you to know how important I think that is, because Machado Park is where the mayor and I were also passing out masks and running into people, and it was so good to just pass out masks and see some of my dear friends that it's been hard to keep contact with. Because of that concern and how difficult it's been, when I was asked to come up with a nomination for my district, I thought of our neighborhood grocery store, Nob Hill Foods. They have been wonderful. They've been so patient and kind with everyone. They were really good about implementing all the social distancing, but also making certain that their customers felt very comfortable. I appreciate that they also put together senior bags of produce and fruits and essentials that our seniors could pick up curbside just for a nominal cost, and that meant so much to me. And I wanted to nominate them for District 3's COVID-19 Community Hero. And the team leader of that store is Norm Harris, and he's going to accept that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Norm Harris with Nob Hill Foods. Thank you for this award. It means a lot for my team to be recognized for their hard work. It was just 90 days ago where our lives were turned upside down and things we'd done every day had changed completely. Things we took for granted, like standing in line, eating out, or even just having toilet paper in stock. With all of these changes came many challenges. The pandemic made us rethink how we best serve our community while ensuring safety for both our customers and our employees. Safety for our customers and employees was the driver for all the decisions we had to make. We implemented social distancing, limited the number of customers in the store, and embraced the use of gloves and masks. We installed plexiglass barriers and continuously cleaned the contact points inside and outside the store. Our team was able to constantly adapt to the many changes that were asked of them, and we wouldn't receive this recognition without all their amazing work. There's also been a surprising amount of bright spots during these challenging times. The interactions and appreciation we receive from our customers has helped to push through the challenging obstacles. Customers brought in homemade treats and ordered pizza for the team, showing that the best way through this is together, not just as a store, but as a community. I don't know what the next 90 days will entail, but I do know that my team will be ready for it, and I certainly hope our customers know that they can continue to trust us through these trying times. Thank you again for this award. We here at Nob Hill are all so proud to be part of the Santa Clara community.
I want to also thank the crew at Nob Hill Stores. It's a great tribute that they're taking care of the community. They're fairly new to our community, so it's very much appreciated. So I'm Teresa O'Neill, council member for District 4. We have heard what individual residents, organizations, and the city is doing to help our community get through the pandemic. I salute all of you who are reaching out a hand, properly gloved and sanitized, to help your neighbors and small businesses. Later, I will introduce a community hero who represents that caring spirit of Santa Clara. The center and heart of District 4 is our beautiful Central Park. But the park, the location of so many events, is important to the entire city. The recent Central Park Master Plan covers all aspects of Santa Clara's largest park. We still have many details to work out, including financing. But some key areas of the park to be considering: the pond area, the most burning issue for Central Park. What do we do with all the goose poop? Do we create a new water feature, perhaps a meditation pond, or a new Japanese-style garden, a tribute to our sister city in Izumo? While I love birds, we need to balance the needs of our feathered friends with all the creatures, including humans, who enjoy the park. Part of Santa Clara's heritage and gift to the world is leading in aquatic sports. How do we best create a new swim center to meet the aquatic needs of our community and athletes in a way we can afford? Does the recreation center need more space for classes and activities? Do we need a gymnasium? Is there a need to expand the library into the park, or perhaps enhance how the library and park interact? Do we want a plaza with an outdoor cafe and space for library events? What role does the library play with the recreation center? They are both community centers, and this is a chance to make them work better together. The Magical Bridge Accessible Playground will be the first of its type in Santa Clara, a place where people of all abilities will experience the full range of play together. We have received grants, but more fundraising is still needed. Please visit magicalbridge.org if you can help make this all-inclusive playground available sooner. In coming days, the Santa Tomas Aquino Trail, our highly used pedestrian and cyclist corridor, will be cleaned and repaired to make it safer for everyone to use. We plan to extend the trail ultimately to Stevens Creek Boulevard. We hope to create a spur down Benton and then along Saratoga Creek within Central Park, then going across Kiley and over to Home Ridge Park. And speaking of Home Ridge Park, it is having a complete update. In a few months, Home Ridge will have a new playground, turf, and restroom. The park will look great and will be safer and more functional for neighbors to enjoy. The city is investing funds each year to keep our pavement maintenance index over 70. I know this is really important to a lot of residents. This year in District 4, streets to be paved include Kiley, Homestead, and Woodhams. Each year, we will be repairing more streets. The El Camino Real specific plan draft is complete. Please review the document on the city's website and comment within the next week. A key retail area for the El Camino and District 4 is the Moonlight Shopping Center. While there are no redevelopment proposals currently, I believe most of the community wants to see an improved retail center with ample placemaking opportunities at this location. And now I'd like to introduce our District 4 COVID-19 community hero. Mrs. Nancy Uyeda has been a dedicated member and volunteer at St. Justin Parish Community for years. Nancy now manages the food pantry where over 2,000 Santa Clarans each month receive groceries or to-go meals. Nancy has been there daily for people with a warm smile and calm presence, addressing people's individual needs. She has had to face the challenges of fewer volunteers, donations from grocery stores, and dollars. At the same time, there are more people in need. Thank you, Nancy, for making sure no one leaves St. Justin empty-handed. Let's meet Nancy.
Hi, I'm Nancy Ueda, Food Pantry Manager at St. Justin's Parish Community Ministry. Thank you to Council Member Teresa O'Neill for recognizing me as a District 4 COVID-19 community hero. St. Justin's Parish Community Ministry has always provided food to the community, but now more than ever, there's a greater need to help those impacted by the pandemic. We are all in this together. It is an honor to be recognized for this award. I also want to recognize the entire team at St. Justin's for their dedication and hard work serving the community and our neighbors in the city of Santa Clara. Thank you.
Thanks again, Nancy.
I've known we've done it already, but let's give another round of applause to both of those community heroes in our city for District 3 and 4. We hear you out there. Come on. Hassan, were they clapping? I want to know. All right, very good. Very good. Thank you so much to Vice Mayor Hardy and Councilmember Teresa O'Neill. It's interesting in both your districts, the key focus areas were parks, open space, trails, and other community resources that even through this pandemic have become even more important to our community. So thank you so much for highlighting both your districts and especially the parks and open spaces that we all enjoy, and we're constantly trying to find ways to improve them. So thank you. So I'd like to start with a quick overview of our priorities that span in multiple areas. I'm pleased that we've made great strides and accomplishments in the past 12 months. These could have not been done without the support of our city council, our wonderful city staff, and most importantly, our community. First, we facilitated the return of the Parade of Champions that had been a cherished tradition in Santa Clara. And we want to thank the parade operators that did that and the city participation in that. That was really a fun event for us. We opened the rehabilitated Bowers Park, which is designed for children of all abilities. We are installing up to 300 new electric vehicle charging stations for public use. We commissioned the newly renovated fire station number 8. We have processed a record number of building permit applications. We broke ground on a new supportive housing development that includes 145 affordable units specifically reserved for unhoused individuals. And after significant public outreach, we launched our new user-friendly city website. We also continue to focus strategically on managing our resources and have streamlined and updated our hiring practices that have resulted in increased hiring of underrepresented applicants. We continue to actively manage our compliance with Measure J and strive to bring more professional management to Levi Stadium. I'm also proud to announce that for the first time nationally, Santa Clara was named the 6th safest city in America, making it to the top 10. So let's give a round of applause for our public safety on that one. These are just a few of some of the high-level accomplishments. You can view a full list of the city accomplishments on our city website for the State of the City page, and I think it's under the news for the State of the City page. It's quite a lengthy list, and of course, I think the community would find it very interesting to see all that we've done in the last year. I also want to recognize the positive ratings that we've received from our community. And in a most recent survey that we have taken, approximately 67% of our residents said that city government is doing a good and excellent job. And these numbers are rising from just 2 years ago. And 70% of our Santa Clarans gave positive feedback on how well the city is keeping our residents informed. And if you look, I think it was I received mine yesterday, the city newspaper has been redone and it has beautiful photos in there, and it's a much easier to read publication where you as residents can get a lot of information about what's upcoming in Santa Clara. So we're constantly striving to find new ways to connect with our community. So please, if you have any ideas, be sure to contact us because we're always trying to improve. But these surveys reveal how productive we are as a city and how we are continuing to make significant progress in service to our residents. Vice Mayor Karen Hardy and Councilmember Teresa O'Neill have recognized their COVID-19 award heroes at the beginning of today's State of the City, and I want to commend them for the individuals and organizations that they have recognized because they have truly made Santa Clara a better place. And one way to tell is specifically when you're in an emergency situation, the people that step forward. But these heroes remind me of why I love Santa Clara. As Santa Clara, we are rising to the challenges that face us today. There are heroes on every block, in every house, in every restaurant, in police cars, in fire trucks, and in hospital rooms. I'm proud of our city. Through this health crisis, we've demonstrated that to protect ourselves and our families, we've had to act as a community. We've had to care about our neighbors as much as we care about ourselves. That's why we all wear masks in public. That's why we maintain social distance. That's why we deliver food to seniors who can't shop and to school kids who would go hungry without our help. Our emergency response to COVID-19 has reached those in need and who need help from the city the most. Here are just a few of the many things that we've been able to do to help Santa Clarans. First, we have a supplemental food distribution program. We call it Healthy Meals Santa Clara and Weekend Senior Meals to Go. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit Santa Clara, and we determined right away that our school children were getting meals on the weekdays and our seniors were getting their meals on the weekdays, but not on the weekends, we decided that people needed to eat 7 days a week. So we went to the city manager and said, we need to feed the children, first of all. And she said, I'll never forget, she said, we need to feed the babies. Let's get going and come up with a program so we can feed the babies. So within, I think it was 10 days, maybe less, we had a community meal program working with the school district to distribute weekend meals to those children in need on the weekends. And it's become so successful. We've given out thousands of meals, and we have many people that are working on that, including our city staff, that is out there distributing the meals at the school sites on Thursdays, in fact today, to make sure that the children are fed on the weekends, especially for people who have lost their jobs and who really need the food. The same goes for our seniors who were not getting their weekend meals and who are afraid to leave their homes. They are able to now receive weekend meals that are either delivered by our Firefighters Association, and so I want to thank them so much for jumping in and helping us deliver those meals, or they are able to drive up and pick them up at the senior center, and again, distributed by our city staff. So we have such successful programs that we were recognized in the New York Times for our COVID-19 response and our food distributions programs just a couple times, not just once, but a few times. So I want to really thank our staff and our city manager and the city council for getting this program going and feeding the people in need. And that's what we thought about first. What are the essential services that this community needs? We have a utility shutoff moratorium, an eviction moratorium. We have a small business assistance grant program that was supported by the city council. We have given out over $1 million to small businesses in our community. And for many of them, it's been a lifeline for them to help them get through this crisis. Our small businesses are the lifeblood of our community, and we wanted to make sure they were supported. We're still working with businesses trying to donate to get additional money because the need out there is enormous for small businesses. We've given a utility bill credit of $30. And I started a Mask Up with the Mayor program, and I think Vice Mayor Hardy talked about that when we were in her district. Gone out to all 6 districts in Santa Clara and distributed masks to our residents that need them for free. The city has offered them up, and we've gone all around the city. I was in Councilmember O'Neill's district as well at Central Park and Machado Park with Vice Mayor Hardy. Been all over the city, have done all the 6 districts. There are many people out there that need masks, that don't have them, especially seniors, and they were very grateful to get these on behalf of the city. So that's been a very successful program, and we have passed out maybe close to 20,000 masks here in the city of Santa Clara. And just this week, we have launched our emergency rental assistance program that will assist low-income households with past due rents because of COVID-19. So keep in tune for more information on that rental assistance program. Even with all we've accomplished, we are continuing to work to deliver new services to help our community. We are working with the county to establish a temporary free COVID-19 testing site in our city, possibly next week or at least by the end of June. We'll be announcing that very shortly, where it will be. It's going to be at the Northside Library, but we'll announce when that will be happening. And then probably one of the most popular programs in our city, we just announced this week that the 2020 annual cleanup campaign is happening and will take place August 10th through September 4th. And for those of you out there, and we've heard from a lot of people, the council can attest to that, people want their cleanup, they miss their cleanup, and many, while they've been sheltering in place, have accumulated things that they want to either throw out or donate, give away to neighbors, but they're very much wanting this. So I'm pleased to say that it's going to happen, and I want to thank our city manager and staff for getting this program going because it wasn't easy at this point in time. So we can look forward to that. So I'm proud and grateful for all of these efforts. We will continue to do what we can, to do what it takes to keep our community together during this pandemic, which may continue for many months. I hate to say, but it's possible. So we are trying to be as prepared as possible as a community. Now, as we all know, we face another major challenge. A tragedy occurred in Minneapolis on Memorial Day. George Floyd died tragically, terribly, under the knee of a police officer. The world saw George Floyd plead for help. The world saw George Floyd beg to breathe. The world saw George Floyd die. And the world, our world, will never be the same. As mayor, I feel a sense of duty to make some sense of this tragedy by making Santa Clara a better place. As a mother, I feel compelled to do what I can to leave a better world for my children and everyone's children. That's why I signed former President Barack Obama's call to address police use of force. It's a call for a common sense approach to evaluate our policies. No city or community can ignore what happened and the issues that have been raised about race and justice. First, we will review our use of city force policies. Second, we will engage our community in the discussion. Third, we will report our findings and seek feedback from our community. And fourth, to improve public safety, we will reform any policies we need to. This is an important pledge and a commitment from me as mayor. And I'm proud to say that on these efforts, I will be working cooperatively with our police chief, Pat Nicolai, who is committed to keeping our city safe for all Santa Clarans, all Santa Clarans. Let me conclude by saying that I decided to focus the majority of my remarks today on two enormous and historic challenges. We have much work to do and many accomplishments in other areas. But as a city, we must meet head-on this healthcare crisis and deal with the issues of race and justice if we are to hand over a great city to the next generation of Santa Clarans. I've lived in Santa Clara for 2 generations. I'm raising my 3 children here. My father was the first directly elected mayor in the 1960s. As residents and as a family, we've seen our city deal with a lot of change and a lot of challenges. I know, as well as anyone, that the state of our city is strong and our community is resilient. Thank you again for virtually being here with us. So I would now like to invite our city manager, Deanna J. Santana, to provide us with a budget update. City manager.
Good afternoon. I'm Deanna Santana, the city manager. I just want to record for the record that we have just shy of 400 people who are tuned into today's virtual State of the City. And I know that we are running over our planned schedule, so I'm going to get through the slides very quickly so that we could get to questions. I just want to first acknowledge that the City of Santa Clara is a complex dynamic organization that is made up of 4 lines of business. This is unusual from surrounding cities as well as other cities when we are made up of our city organization, which provides municipal services, our electric utility that does business as Silicon Valley Power, our stadium authority, where we operate and have oversight of the Levi Stadium, as well as Convention Center, where we provide support services and oversight for our facility for tourist events and conferences. Altogether, we have over a $1.2 billion budget, and we are comprised of over 1,000 full-time employees with managed assets of about $3.5 billion. So overall, large portfolio. Here is just an example of how the dollars break down from an operating standpoint. There's the $1.25 billion capital projects operating budget, as well as the stadium authority. When we started our budget oversight and working towards our realities, we provided a 10-year general fund forecast, as well as looked at what known risk factors. This has been a document that, or assignment that we've been providing now for almost a year. And what we've been able to identify is 8 known risk factors that we felt would impact how our 10-year forecast would look. When we reported out in January, we identified that 4 of the 8 known risk factors had already started to surface. And if you look at the chart here on your screen, you'll see that we assigned the dollar value of what we thought the impact would be. And obviously, these are negative impacts as they present risk. We now know that an additional 3 of the 8 have occurred. The economic slowdown recession has occurred, and we'll add some value to that as we go through the presentation. But no one in the economic slowdown recession category could have predicted that a pandemic and a global economic crisis would have taken place. So from a national standpoint, this data is dated as of end of May. We have about 43 million unemployment claims. I understand that just as of today, an additional report came out adding 1.5 million. This is unprecedented employment rates for the country, certainly dates back and exceeds areas of the Depression, as well as our market losses have also been unprecedented. The spiking of the coronavirus will obviously have prolonged economic impacts for the nation, as well as the state of California and our local government. So when we look at the local region and understand what's happening, we already know that some of our surrounding cities have identified the number as well as taken action to address the shortfalls that they're experiencing. You have just north of us the city of Palo Alto, who's already addressed a $40 million revenue shortfall and have made significant public safety as well as other staff cuts. We have San Jose, who's announced a $110 million shortfall. City of El Cerrito is trying to prevent bankruptcy and trying to address their shortfalls, as well as Monterey has already laid off 87 employees, as well as the city of Salinas laying off a third of its employees. Particularly for Santa Clara, when we look at our 10-year forecast in January, we reported that we had a $13 million forecast, shortfall forecast over the next 4 years. As of the end of March, we quantified that to now 34 million over next 4 years. So essentially, it's nearly tripled with the COVID and the economic impacts. As these numbers were put together at the end of March, we anticipate that it will likely get worse as we begin to take in data from April, May, and June. We'll be bringing back more information as part of our budget report out. For the current year, though, we are reporting a $10 million shortfall, and for next year, a $22.7 million shortfall. So we immediately got to work on how we can address our shortfalls by implementing a hiring freeze, putting in place stricter expenditure controls. We laid off or terminated about 50% of our temporary staff. By numbers, that was 450 part-time employees, and it's hundreds of thousands of staff capacity hours. We are limiting travel, limiting training, reducing our IT expenditures, as well as other areas such as contracts and fleet purchases. For next year, the budget strategy really falls into 3 categories. We'll look at revenue and potential ballot measures of where we can generate additional revenue, as well as discuss with the council any interest of changing fees. We'll continue to look at cost controls by expenditure measures. We're in discussions with our labor unions to find out if there's any opportunity to negotiate employee participation, as well as a last resort, there is the opportunity, if we're not able to get these numbers down, for potential layoffs. We do have a sizable reserve over the last 3 years. We've been able to build up our reserve to about 79 million, of which we will request that the council use a portion of the reserve so that we can stabilize our budget. That will be an action that will be coming before the council on June 23rd. When we look at where the solutions rest, it's important that we understand that our general fund does have some fixed costs. There are some mandated costs, issues of insurance or reimbursements or debt costs that we need to continue to pay. So when we look at what's available, and here on this side, you can see that there's really only 70% of the general fund of where we can look at for solving the city's shortfall. It's approximately $2 million, and it's split between non-public safety services and public safety services. And so that's where proposals will be coming from to address the shortfall that we face. In terms of magnitude, to better understand what 22.7 million means by way of service, we are able to just characterize, these are not budget proposals, but it would mean the elimination of the entire Parks and Rec department, a half of the fire department, or 1/3 of the police department. And that just helps to understand the scale of the shortfall that we are addressing. For potential ballot initiatives, I do want to acknowledge that we have been doing some work on what the voter tolerance would be on a transit occupancy tax. The results of that work are going to be presented to the City Council on June 23rd. And what you have in front of you is a chart that shows the revenue that would be generated with each change of percent, as well as the positions that would be saved or provide funding for based on sworn positions or non-sworn positions. And so if you look at the chart here and look at 2%, it will generate about $3 million, and it will have the opportunity to save 12 sworn positions or 18 non-sworn positions. I do want to acknowledge that because our transit occupancy tax has been seriously hit given the shutdown of hotels and our convention center, these dollars would not be new dollars, but rather they would be raised to slow the losses that we're experiencing and to save positions. So it wouldn't be dollars for new investment. So there's going to be lots of opportunity to engage. We're going to be coming back on June 23rd with a budget presentation, and council will consider its action. We're going to be working on these proposals during August. We'll be before the council with revised numbers based on more current data that we're in process of receiving, as well as in December when we're back before the council to check in with on our budget with them publicly and provide any additional solutions that we'll be able to bring forward to stabilize our budget. So with that, we're prepared for questions. Before I move on, I do want to thank the City Council for your leadership, as well as all of the courageous decisions that you've had to make over the last couple of months to keep the community stable. I also want to thank our city staff, who have just had incredible accomplishments throughout the years, but also more particularly and recently as disaster service workers to provide support to our community during this COVID pandemic. And for today, for moving so quickly to a virtual State of the City, I want to thank Kendra Davis, Robin Sahid, Genevieve Yip, Julie Minot, Lanka Wright, Nadine Nader, Lon Peterson, and all of our communications staff who moved so quickly to support this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. I guess we can clap for that. Not for the budget shortfalls, but for everything else. Yay, yay, it's all good news. Thank you. So now I'd like to turn to our City Clerk, Hassam Hagag, who will provide some tips on how to participate in the question and answer session of this State of the City Town Hall. So Hassam, take it away.
Thanks, Mayor Gilmore. Like I mentioned earlier in the call, we have many different ways where you can participate live and unfiltered, ask your questions unfiltered. You can watch we're live streaming to our Facebook, the city's Facebook page and YouTube pages. And if you ask any questions in either the Facebook or YouTube pages, we'll be happy to ask it on your behalf. And if you want to ask your own question directly, feel free to dial in to the live telephone number as well, where we have hundreds of people listening in as we speak. And the number is 877-353-4701. And if you want to ask a question while you're on the phone, press 0 to be added to the queue. So with that, we do have quite a few people in the queue already. Some people have been very patient waiting from the beginning of the town hall and state of the city. So we're going to turn it over to some of those folks. So the first question comes from Jean. Can we please unmute Jean? And Jean, go ahead and ask your questions. Are we able to unmute Jean? Did we lose Jean? All right, oh, well, Jean, I think you're muted because we can't hear you. Ivan, what we'll do is we'll move on to the next one. Keep Jean on the line, and we'll move on to the next question. And Jean, please unmute yourself when we come back to you. We'll go next to Eileen. Eileen, can we unmute Eileen? And Eileen, go ahead with your question.
Hello?
Yes.
Is this for Arlene Hancock?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you, Eileen.
Yes? Can you hear me? Okay. Well, I have several questions, but I don't want to take the whole time. I'd just like to have a meeting with Mayor Gilmore sometime if it's possible, and I will tell her my great ideas to her when I meet her. In the meantime, I would say one thing. We do need to have our little businesses open. It's very essential, and I will approve of saying that we need to do it as soon as we can with the coronavirus guidelines. And I think Santa Clara residents are excellent to obey the rules, and we will go ahead and make our businesses. And we are tired of staying at home and bored, and the kids are just getting on our nerves, and we got to get out of the houses. Number two, the second question is, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Eileen.
Yes.
Okay. Number two, I think when we have a call for 911, it's a good idea if the person says, is this a white victim or a black victim? And send the black police to the black victim and white policemen to the white victim. This way, I don't think there will be any racial problem in our country. I think even though sometimes if the black victim is wrong, just because it's the white policeman, they are just not liking that. But so I think it's a good idea if a black person is a victim, send the black cop to that victim. And this way, whatever the black person does to the victim, it's not going to look as bad to the black race. That is.
Okay, Eileen, thank you. This is Lisa Gilmore. Thank you for your question, comments. I'm going to start with the first question you had, and yes, I would meet with you anytime. If there's a constituent that wants to meet with me, they just have to contact City Hall, and I will meet with you. It will Zoom meeting. I will talk to you on the phone, whatever you need, anybody at any time. In terms of opening businesses, yes, we're all getting tired of sheltering in place, but we're doing it for health reasons, to make sure that people are safe and we're protecting our vulnerable communities. We follow the health orders from the County of Santa Clara. So whenever the county issues orders, the City of Santa Clara does follow. So we are all anxious to get back to life as normal as, well, as close to as normal as it was before. We're probably not going to be there for a while, but we're doing the best we can, and we're doing the best we can to follow the rules that the health officer from the county has issued for us. So I wish we could make up our own, but we don't. We want to make sure people are safe and healthy. In terms of the police issues, our police department responds to anyone from Santa Clara, any need at any time. It doesn't matter what color or sexual orientation or anything, our police department will respond to everyone equally. So I can't say I agree with your comments at all, but certainly you're entitled to your opinion. But I just want to make sure everybody knows that if you need help and you dial our police department, our fire department, our city hall, that we will be responsive to anyone at any time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Gilmore. So unfortunately, we lost Jean. She dropped off the call when we were trying to get her to unmute, but we do have her question here, so I will ask it on her behalf. She had a two-part question. The first one is, I use the library a lot, the tech room and the free computers. Since there will be reduced funding, what will be happening to the library? That's the first question. And the second one is also, I've been hearing about more COVID cases in Santa Clara, and I'm wondering if people coming from other counties that are coming to our hospital are being counted as Santa Clara cases. So two questions there, and City Manager.
Let me just start with the library proposal. We are in process of putting together proposals for the City Council to consider. And the library has been given a target in terms of what to put forward as by way of proposals. That will all be before the council, and the council will be able to publicly deliberate on those proposals and make decisions. So no decisions right now have been made, but the considerations are forthcoming. August and December are the timelines. In terms of cases, I'll just set the foundation here of what we're working with in Santa Clara and the county. The total cases for the county are 3,363, and they're up 79 from yesterday. The deaths are 152, and that's up 1 from yesterday. And for Santa Clara, we're at 150, and that's up 11. These are numbers that we monitor very closely because we, too, are looking at our reopening strategies. We're looking at how we are functioning under the changed phases, as well as the orders from the court. It's been on an upward trend for the last couple of weeks, actually, with reopening, and so all of our actions are being very measured as we go forward.
Awesome. So we're going to go to the next question on the phone. Martin, can we unmute Martin, please? And also, sorry, Martin, to interrupt.
Hello.
We have a lot of questions, by the way, on the phone and on the live stream. So I'm going to ask for folks who are asking their questions on the phone, if you can please keep it brief so that we can get through as many questions as we can. So go ahead, Martin, you're on the line.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you, Martin. Go for it.
Okay, I've got a couple of comments. One, will the city stop fighting with Levi Stadium? Ever since Levi Stadium and the 49ers have come to Santa Clara, your rate of vacancies has dropped. Construction of multi-story offices. I've been a resident of Santa Clara for over 30 years, and all of a sudden, when Levi came in, all these vacant offices, boom, they're all filled. All these single-story buildings torn down and multi-story office buildings, apartment complexes. Second of all, it's about time you did something for our area. I live over at Monroe and Monticello, and I've been here for 30-year resident, and you've done absolutely nothing for this area except build a monstrosity apartment complex at Monroe and Lawrence, and didn't even build a park for the neighborhood up here at A-Gate, for this neighborhood, Lawrence, Monroe area. Nothing. And finally, you build a park at Machado, which was supposed to be open last December, and nothing happened. But you've done absolutely nothing for this area in over 30 years that I can recall. Second of all, we need to get the people back in the open. Let's get the parks open for the kids. And Dr. Sarah Cody, I want to ask the council, have you guys ever heard of oxygen tents? Any of you? When I see people sick, they're all laying out in a bed, pumping away, not anything over them, not even a mask. So what you've done was create pandemic for the people that are helping these patients. The healthcare workers are dying because Sarah Cody did not generate oxygen tents for the patients. They should have been in oxygen tents.
Martin?
And if any of you know what it is, raise your hand.
Thank you, Martin. I think we have three questions from you,
that's
so
it.
let's get to them so we
Yes.
can move on to the other questioners. Thank you, Martin, for your questions.
Thank you for your questions and concerns, Martin. We'll start with Levi Stadium. Santa Clara had very high hopes for Levi Stadium, that it would generate a lot of income and really excitement for our community. Right out of the bat, the 49ers started reneging on the promises they made to the community for Measure J. The city over the years has been trying to get financial information and other types of information from the 49ers on Levi Stadium, but it's become pretty abundantly clear that the 49ers had represented to us that they could successfully manage a stadium, and that has proven to be false. The fact that they book money-losing events, that they don't pay prevailing wage, there's wage theft at the stadium, they don't follow state law on procuring contracts, they don't hand us financial information. They've sued us 7 times, we've never sued them once. It's become a big issue for us, and so we are unfortunately in court, so the judges will decide what happens. But at the end of the day, we want Levi Stadium to be successful. We want the city to be generating the income that was promised to us when we all, the majority of the city approved Measure J back in 2010. It's just that we need professional managers of the stadium. We need managers that won't book money-losing events. So this year, the city of Santa Clara in our general fund is making nothing. So I'm just telling you that we're working to get better management. We do think it can be successful once we have professional managers in place. In terms of what's happened with your district, and you're in Vice Mayor Hardy's district, Monticello, I actually grew up in that area as well, and you're right, there's not been a lot going on over there, and I do think there's a lack of parks in that neighborhood, and there was many reasons why Machado Park was delayed because of what they found under the ground, and there was all kinds of things, and then of course COVID-19 hit. But I think that you know, Vice Mayor Hardy's done a good job in representing her district, and we know there's traffic issues and a lot of issues in that area that we're trying to address. We did put new housing out there, affordable housing near the train station and other areas, but it is an area that has potentially been neglected over the years, and I think now there's a renewed sense, and you now have a council district representative for that area, so there's going to be fresh eyes on that area as well in the future. In terms of Dr. Cody, that is the county of Santa Clara, not the city of Santa Clara. So although Teresa O'Neill knows about the tents you were talking about, I saw her hand go up, Councilmember O'Neill. I'm not quite familiar with those, but that's not in our level of service from the city of Santa Clara for health. And we do follow, I know there's many parents out there that want to see their children climbing on the climbing structures and being out there in public. We're all tired of being inside, and we want our kids to be out there playing, but it's not safe at this time until, you know, the county tells us that it's safe and we have the proper, you know, disinfectant. Until there's a vaccine for this, we're trying to keep our community safe. And what's alarming in the numbers that the city manager brought up is that the age ranges for the new COVID cases, now the largest range is between 18 and 33. So the younger generation that has been out there is now catching it at a higher rate than older people like me. So we're very concerned about that. So we are just trying to keep our residents safe, because above anything else, if you don't have your health, nothing else matters to us. So I'm sorry you're upset about that, but it's just the way it's going to be until we are able to open things safely. We want to make sure it's safe. I can't emphasize that more. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Gilmore. We're going to move over to Tom on the line. If we can unmute Tom.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Gilmore and City Council members. I thank you very much for all you do for our city. So I just have a quick suggestion on the San Thomas Creek Trail. If we could improve on viewing benches, people could stop along the way and talk and be more of a community. One particular area I thought was ideal. I enjoy going out, and maybe it's just for me, but a good viewing spot is on 237th at the north end of San Thomas. And that's all I had to say. Thank you again for all of you, and Good health to you all. Good day.
Thank you, Tom. We also have a comment that is very similar to that from the YouTube live stream about improvements to Santa Tomas Aquinas Creek Trail with bench seating and rest areas along the trail, particularly on the north end of, near 237.
Oh, I was going to ask Teresa, that's part of your district. Did you want to talk about the Creek Trail?
Well, Karen, why don't you go ahead?
Go ahead.
I do walk and I do bike out there, so I'm very familiar with that. I did look through the capital improvement. We do have a few places where we're going to work on the pavement. I do understand some of the places where you could stop. I love to stop and see some of the wildlife and things like that along the creek trail. So at this point, we don't have benches as part of the plan, but it is a good suggestion. I like it. And we would have to look at, once again, at our capital improvement, and at this point, we're having to limit that. But I was happy to see that there are some places where the trail needs some maintenance, and that is in the budget to have that happen.
I just want to add that our department directors are on the line tuning in, and so we will be able to provide a more detailed comment on June 23rd when we present the final capital budget to the council.
Okay, we're going to move to a couple questions that came in on the comments, and I'm going to try to combine a couple that are on the same topic. So from both Nishita and Linda are asking some questions around the Obama's commitment to action that Mayor Gilmore, you signed on to. Is there some sort of accountability to make sure that the city follows through with the guidelines? How will the city make sure it is transparent about its review of the police force? And then Linda asks a question also around the same topic. What is the city doing to make sure that police don't weasel out of following best practices? With the police policy statement, it has a lot of ifs, ands, and buts in regards to chokeholds. How can we eliminate this loophole wording?
Okay, thank you for those questions. Those have been asked by a lot of people through, I know we've all been getting emails and calls and stopped on, the street to talk about this. And, the Obama Pledge is a guideline. Our commitment is a guideline for us. And I think every community is going to, take that as instructions on how to proceed, but we have to make it our own. And I think, as many Santa Clarans know, we are the only city in the state of California that elects our police chief. So that's the first level of accountability, is that the police chief is accountable to the residents and the voters of our city. And that is something that, is really important, I think, especially in this situation. But we are going to talk about how we are going to make this meaningful and how we are going to involve our community and how transparent it's going to be in terms of working with our community. We're going to be a work in progress. Tomorrow I have Zoom meetings with 2 of our commissioners, or younger commissioners, that want to be involved in setting up a structure for us. So part of the Obama plan is to go out and survey your community and talk to the community about what are the best practices on police use of force and other things. First, we're going to find out what the police actually do and what are our policies for use of force. Then we're going to talk about it, get the community involved, and at the end of the day, we're going to come out with our Santa Clara plan. I was also discussing this with Santa Clara University president today, and I'll talk to the council about that at a later date. But Santa Clara University has offered to help us, and the students are really interested in Santa Clara University and being involved with the city and helping us come up with a plan, whether we end up with a Human Relations Commission or something at the end of the day. But it's reforming our police department with our elected police chief, and I think that's important. and then working with the community. And at the end of the day, we have some short-term solutions, and those would be looking at our police policies right now, and then longer-term solutions for sustainability, and that would be commissions, committees, citizens groups, oversight, those types of things. So we're looking at both of those, and I believe, City Manager, we're talking about this on Tuesday. Is this for Tuesday?
That is, we will start the meeting talking about these items.
Okay, so stay tuned, that keep in touch, because we are going to be talking about this probably at every one of our meetings as we get through it. We're doing this right away. We're not going to wait. We immediately determine we need to do something and look at our police. And it's ideal right now because we have a brand new police chief that was just elected in March. So he is very interested in being collaborative with the city council and the city and the community. So please be involved, everyone. Thank you.
All right, we got a couple questions here. Let's unmute Rick, and then we'll also follow up with Sandra. I think both questions are related, but let's hear from them directly. So, Rick, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, this is Rick. I know you identified you have a surplus of, I think you said $75 million. I know a significant part of that should be and was held in reserve for just this kind of emergency situation, so you wouldn't have to do layoffs and extreme cutting down of programs. I want the council to support using as much of that reserve as you can to keep the programs as they are, because I think we're at a tipping point that if you start cutting programs, things are going to go downhill fast. As I see them right now, a lot of the deferred maintenance and reduction of doing maintenance on things really brought the city down. And one of that is like, keeping up the streets and stuff. I mean, we used to have a street value of up in the 80s, and now we're down. Somebody was talking about in the 70s. Okay, that's all it is. I just want you to use reserve to start laying off people and cutting severe programs.
Thank you. Can we also unmute Sandra? I think she has a question that is in the similar vein, and then we can have the city manager address those, or the city or the mayor. Sandra?
Good afternoon or evening. Yes.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay. I have two questions. I'm a senior, been here since 57. That's 1957. I don't see how the city can possibly have a deficit of anything, because what I have seen in the past 10 years, the buildings, I know we just remodeled our house and we had to pay so much for permits and all kinds of things. So the city must be getting, and then you knocked down Moonlight Bowling Alley? You let that go? And I can't get my hair cut. Okay, that's all. That was, okay. It's just.
Okay, thank you, Sandra.
I'm an old lady.
So I think Sandra's question and the prior question were about like the city finances and the reserves.
Sandra, I feel your pain. I can't get a haircut either. I just want to acknowledge the $79 million is a general fund reserve. The city has other reserves that are parked in the appropriate funds, and happy to share a reserve chart of the number of reserves that we have on June 23rd as part of our budget presentation for transparency purposes. The city has not been in the practice, though, over the years of putting together a capital budget with a continued stream of revenue. And so when we look at our infrastructure investment needs, we have been able to produce various studies, and the caller is absolutely correct in that we do need investment in our infrastructure needs. The dollars in terms of shortfall where we're falling right now are mainly lost out of sales tax revenue as well as TOT and other areas. I can tell you that the city's general fund, where we provide a lot of support for our municipal services such as library, parks and rec, police and fire, about 30% of it is based on support from our transit occupancy tax and sales tax. And so when the economy slows down and when our convention center is shuttered, as well as our hotels, that explains from an operating standpoint why we have these numbers that we do. It's not any fiscal mismanagement or poor decision making. It is simply that the 30% of the city's general fund is directly impacted by the pandemic as well as the global economic crises.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up with that, in that our council is very concerned about services to the community, because that's our main goal and that's our charge, and our mission here in Santa Clara is to provide services to the community. So we're going to look for any ways we can to trim, to cut our budget, but still maintain as many services to the community that we can, because especially during this time, that this is a time our residents rely on us to have our libraries and our parks and our open spaces, and any services that we can provide them now more than ever. So we're going to get as creative as we can, and we always have in the past. We survived the Great Recession and other things. This is a little bit different because we don't know how long it's going to last. But at the end of the day, we're going to do what we can to preserve our services, and that's why we're not just looking at cost cutting, but we're also looking at revenue generating opportunities so that we can maintain our good services to the community. Thank you.
I'm going to move over to some questions in the comments, because they've been patiently waiting in the comments. A question from Michael: when will Reed Street Sports Complex be ready?
I wish it were tomorrow. We were supposed to have a groundbreaking in May, right? So, is there Jim Teixeira on our phone, Director of Parks and Recreation, or Manuel? Anyone on the phone out there in virtual world?
Yes.
There we go.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hi, Jim.
The question is, when is Reed Street opening, the sports park?
Yes, good afternoon. This is Jim Teixeira, Director of Parks and Recreation. Currently, just this week, the grass turf did get installed. The subcontractor are still working on the Marcelli Community Center building. And then closely following, there will be the improvements to the dog park. And then they will finish up the punch list items. So we're anticipating probably we're about 2 months out from the sports park portion being complete, and then the dog park portion will follow after that. Based on the county guidelines at present, you can have 5 people on a stage and 25 people socially distanced from that. So I think we will be waiting until there is greater opportunity for more people to participate. And we'll be providing updates through the city manager's communications and outbound as we get closer to that date.
Thanks, Jim. All right, we're going to go to another question from the comments from Rabbi Yigal. Any updates regarding bike lanes on Prune Ridge? And there's a similar question, or a question in the same vein, from Atisha: are we implementing slow streets?
I'm going to talk, well, actually, Teresa, do you want to talk about the bike lanes? Because part of Prune Ridge is in your District 5 and then District 6. I can talk about that, but why don't you take that, Teresa?
So we did receive a grant about the bike lanes, and part of that is that there needs to be a study. We had an initial study done before the bike lanes were built that currently go from the Cupertino border to Pomeroy, and then there was a follow-up study which I know that a lot of people in the community felt that the follow-up study was a little inadequate. And so this item came to the council to try to start the process, but I know some of us on the council felt like this wasn't a time, particularly in the last couple of months, to go out and do traffic studies and things like that, because there's just not very many cars on it. It wouldn't give you a realistic look. So I believe that those studies, to give us a baseline data for, like Karen would be working with the BPAC to look at, I'm not sure, I would have to ask the city manager if she knows, but I think those studies have been delayed until we are kind of out of the shelter in place so that there can be a realistic traffic study.
Thank you. I am the chair of BPAC, that's the Bicycle and Pedestrian Action Committee, and we have been talking about this a lot. Because of the shelter in place, we have not been able to meet. We have not been able to start the studies, and things have been held up. I know for a lot of people that's frustrating, but we do want good data, and we do want to have our input from our residents. And at this point, that's limited. And so it's still in our queue, and it will be definitely worked on. And if you're concerned about that, we do have you'll look online, we have our BPAC meetings, and those are open public meetings.
I just want to invite our Director of Public Works to add any additional comments on the question. Craig?
Yeah, thanks, Deanna. This is Craig Moback, Director of Public Works. And that's correct. We did come and bring before council the potential agreement with Alta. We discussed that, but council's direction was to wait until we could get better clarification on how we perform our outreach and studies in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we're on a hold pattern until we can get back to normal in terms of those features, and then we would be coming back to council for a contract approval. And that's in regard to the Green Ridge Bike Lane study.
So I just wanted to tag on a little bit with the slow streets. I know we do have some areas, we have done some traffic calming in different parts of the city, which it can be effective. And also there is some discussion, and I think when we have our next school city liaison meeting with the Santa Clara Unified School District, there has been some discussion about whether we want to look at doing more things together, working together on our safe routes to school and some of the other funding programs that we have, where particularly in neighborhoods that are closer to schools, where we could do something that might be the equivalent of slow streets.
All right, we have about 18 or 19 questions, if I have my count correct, that are in the queue, and I don't think we'll obviously have enough time today to go through all 18 or 19 questions, but what I will commit to those who have asked questions, and I've written every single one of them down, that we have the session tomorrow from 4 to 5 p.m. Where we will continue to take questions live in the town hall format. We'll also have representation and the COVID-19 Community Hero Awards for Districts 5 and 6 presented, and so I will commit to those who have asked questions that I will continue to ask those questions on your behalf in tomorrow's session. And as well, if you'd like to dial in again tomorrow and ask it live, you're more than welcome to as well. So we'll probably take just a couple more questions and then wrap it up for the day. We have some questions on the stadium. So we have Stan waiting on the line, and there's also a written question, so I'll tack it on because they're both related to the stadium. Stan, are you unmuted?
Hello. Thanks for taking my call. I got a couple of items. As far as the stadium goes, I'm going to take a different tack than the previous caller. I'm not sure what anybody was thinking about putting the stadium in here. All you have to do is look what happened to the city of Oakland when they got the Raiders to come back from L.A., and they ended up getting screwed big time, and now the Raiders are moving to Vegas. So if you want to see the future with the Niners, just take a look at the Raiders, and you're going to see the future of what happens there. And if I hope people are looking at that and thinking, you know, we made a mistake. How can we best deal with this? That's number one. Number two is cannabis. Why don't we, if we need money, why aren't we opening cannabis dispensaries here? All the tax money is going to San Jose. I mean, you go over there, go over to Costco by the airport, and there's lines waiting to get in there, and people are paying a lot of money, and they're making a lot of money on taxes. And the city of San Jose loves it. They love it. So anyway, those are my two questions. Thanks.
Thanks. There's also a follow-up question on the Niners because it's also related from the comments from Saskia. Are we getting the Niners to pay their rent? If they are not, why not? Because other commercial property owners are making their tenants still pay. So we can probably tack that on to the same comment or question.
Okay, thank you all. First, answer the stadium questions. Santa Clara, we protected ourselves by creating the Stadium Authority when we passed Measure J, which put a firewall between the Stadium Authority and our city's general fund. So that's the difference between us and Oakland. We were a little bit smarter here when we did that, and for good reasons. I'm glad we did that because we had protected ourselves. But at the end of the day, there's still a debt from the Stadium Authority of about $350 million. And the way that that debt is paid off is by the seat license payments and the rent. So the 49ers are paying the rent. I don't know if you recall, we went through an arbitration with the 49ers. They wanted to dramatically reduce their rent to the Stadium Authority, and we actually fought back, and not only was the rent not reduced, but it was increased. And so it was a huge win for Santa Clara and the Stadium Authority because we can be assured that some of the bills will be paid at the stadium, and ultimately we'll be able to pay down that debt for the Stadium Authority. So that's what's important to us. And we're working really hard to make sure the taxpayers are protected. It's been a very difficult situation because we don't have good business partners with the 49ers, unlike what they said when they came here to Santa Clara. We're hoping they've done a phenomenal job changing the way they operate on the playing field. We really wish they would change the way they operate with their community, because that needs to change. Secondly, what was the second question?
About
cannabis. Okay. So we did pass the cannabis tax here in the city of Santa Clara, and it passed by a pretty healthy margin. But at the same time, our city council changed. So the desire to have cannabis sold in Santa Clara, it waned dramatically, and there's very strong feelings on our existing council right now that we do not have sales of cannabis in the city of Santa Clara. So that's where we stand. It's pretty much as simple as that. And until things change, we have a moratorium on the sale of cannabis in the city. Thank you.
All right, we'll take one last question. It's actually, I'm going to combine the questions from 4 or 5 different commenters or questions, and it's all around the COVID-19 restrictions and businesses that are opening up. So I'm just going to shoot through them one by one. From Suds, will the city be closing streets to allow restaurants to have outdoor dining? There's one from Honor about, can I get a haircut this Saturday? From Claudia about when our hair salon's going to reopen. From Mateo, when are we going to open the gyms? And from Helen, do you know if the Santa Clara pool will be open anytime this summer? So a bunch of questions about opening businesses and under the current circumstances.
All right, I'm going to have our city manager talk about the pools and the streets for restaurants, because we just did pass the opportunity for restaurants to have outside dining. And we have a very simple form that they can fill out to get a city permit to do that, although I think some restaurants are doing it already. So, okay, that's fine, but we're trying to make it easy. We have not made any, there's not been any requests yet to close any streets for outside dining, unless a city manager has any. Do we have any requests for outside dining? I mean, closing streets at this point? No.
No.
Okay. So there's that. In terms of everything else, again, We follow the County of Santa Clara, Dr. Sarah Cody, who's the health officer. We follow their rules and their instructions as to when it can happen. So Santa Clara County's opening very slowly. They're very cautious because of the numbers of COVID cases and trying to keep people healthy. So it's a slow reopening. So we really have to watch what they're doing. I know other counties have opened for haircuts. I know people have traveled far to get their haircut, but apparently now in Santa Clara County, we're not able to do that. So City Manager, can you talk about the swimming pools and the outdoor dining? Thank you.
The good news is that we're currently in process of finalizing our plan to reopen our pool for lap swim. So we'll be making an announcement very soon around the dates that we'll be able to provide lap swimming. So stay tuned. We literally have been working on the operations plan to ensure safety all this week and last week. So we should be coming out with the dates very soon, looking at towards end of June.
All right, well, with that, I know, like I said, we have quite a few questions that are still remaining in the queue. I promise we do have all of those written down. We'll get to them tomorrow. And so I do want to remind that tomorrow we will be having the third and final State of the City session with live town hall questions and answers with representation from districts 5 and 6 and along with the COVID-19 Community Hero Awards from each of those districts. So if you'd like to ask your question again tomorrow, if you haven't gotten through to it, I do have it written down, so I will ask it on your behalf if you don't make it. But if you'd like to ask it again tomorrow, join again tomorrow from 4 to 5. And I would like to ask Mayor Gilmore for closing remarks for tonight.
So thank you, and thank you, City Clerk, for managing our question and answer session. It's nice to see you done an excellent job with that. And thank you to the public for tuning in. And hopefully you'll be able to join us tomorrow again where we will answer more questions. And depending on the situation, it's my intent to hold a typical State of the City event where we have actually the public present, where you can ask your questions in person, which is really what we prefer, to see you and talk to you and have a typical event. But we'll look towards the end of the year, maybe October, November, if it permits that we be able to do something like that, depending on what's happening with our pandemic. So thank you very much for joining my colleagues and I, Vice Mayor Karen Hardy from District 3 and Councilmember Teresa O'Neill for District 4. Thank you for your presentations about your district and introducing us to your heroes. And thank you all for joining our virtual State of the City 2020. Thank you.